essentially today, the goal of today is to show you how to go from the basic tenets of cheese making process, going from curd. We'll talk about what curd is, how it's made, from which types of milk it's made, a little bit of the history of fresh mozzarella as far as how it's used, when and why, how to incorporate it into our Midwest diet and such. And then I'll actually go through the process of making it, stretching it, if you will, forming it, and then as soon as it rests for a little bit of time, we'll actually taste it. And hopefully you can go home with full bellies and smiles. Is anyone lactose intolerant and can only watch this? I apologize. All right. So, curd. Following our handy handout here, I'm just going to go through it so you have a reference guide. Essentially, mozzarella is taking fresh curd, which is branded milk. You start with the cow's milk. In the world of mozzarella, if we're speaking about Italian mozzarella, you're talking about mozzarella di bufalo, which is water buffalo milk. One of the reasons we use the water buffalo milk is because it's higher in fat. And what you're getting from a fresh cheese like mozzarella, where you're not getting a lot of the nuances and characters from aging the cheese, you're getting the richness of the butter fats. And so the whole goal of making mozzarella is to elongate the protein structures, form it, and keep all the flavor you can inside. And the flavor is coming from the butter fats. So when you cut into a ball of mozzarella, it should be supple, room temperature, even warm when it's fresh. And what's oozing from, hopefully, the porous structure inside are those rich, milky butter fats that you add things like salt to. We add tomatoes, basil. Think of all the dishes we incorporate fresh mozzarella with. It's just a vehicle for flavor, and it has flavor on its own. The curd we're using today is called fior di latte, or flour of the milk, because we don't have access to water buffalo milk in the U.S. on a great scale. We do on a small scale. You'll see some water buffalo yogurts coming from the Midwest, coming from Texas, coming from the East Coast. They don't have enough yet to incorporate fresh curd. We're using cow's milk, and our cow's milk curd comes from Buzzards Bay, Massachusetts. It'd be wonderful to get a local Michigan supplier of cow's milk curd, if anyone's out there in Coopersville or elsewhere, Michigan. And so the goal here, because we're using what we're going to get, as opposed to, let's say you buy a ball of true mozzarella di bufalo, water buffalo milk. If it's been refrigerated, it's had to come on a plane from Italy, from Uruguay, Paraguay, wherever they're making it, to the U.S. It sits on a store shelf. Traditionally, what they do to heighten the flavor, because you're not getting that freshly made, rich, unctuous butter fat coming from the water buffalo mozzarella, they add a little bit of salt to the brine. And what that does is just amplify the flavor. Traditionally, the texture is a little firmer, more chewy when you buy store-bought mozzarella. And I'm not saying that buying store-bought mozzarella is a bad thing. We sell a mozzarella loaf that is extruded and is great for things like lasagna, things like that. But if you're going to pay a price for fresh mozzarella, hopefully what you're going to get is the quality of fresh mozzarella and the consistency of something soft and supple and unctuous and ready to go. And that's the way it's used in Italy. It's bought just like baguettes in France. It's daily, made daily, sometimes twice a day. You pick it up right before you consume it. That's the whole logic of fresh mozzarella. We keep ours for 2 days, then they become sandwiches. And so when you take it home, if you were to buy it from us, it comes in the whey, which is just water, room temperature water with a little bit of butter fat. And the reason we put a little bit of the butter fat in that you'll see in the process is so it doesn't leach the butter fats from the mozzarella into the solution. We don't add any salt to our mozzarella. You can do that at home if you want. And you can keep it for up to 3 or 4 days on the counter if it's cool enough in your home, and then into the refrigerator for a day or two. So you have about a week of total shelf life. I'm going to get going. The curd, we'll go back to how the curd is made. If there's any questions, just shout out. Once again, my name is Sean. Essentially, you have milk. Milk is then lightly warmed, and enzyme is added. The traditional enzyme would be from the small forestomach of a young calf, or in this case, a water buffalo, and they use that enzyme to break down the mother's milk.
That might have been larger.
the same way we do. They add that now, which has been synthetically made in laboratories, so we're no longer scraping the fourth intestine of a young calf, turning the rest into veal. It is being done synthetically, so fear not. And what that does is it coagulates the butter fats, and by bringing those butter fats together, you get curd, and the curd expels whey. If we were going to take this process one step further, what they've done is they've grouped the curd together and formed it into a mass, so it's easily broken down for me when I want to go make fresh mozzarella. If we were going to make a wheel of cheese, what we would do is we would take this curd as it's coagulating and cut it and break it up into smaller pieces, releasing more whey into the mixture, and that's how you adjust for fat content in cheeses. The more whey you pull out, it's releasing more whey. You're bringing those curds together, and then in a classic cheese, let's say like Gruyere, what they do is they mill or finely chop those curds. They bring them together. They put the force and weight of a press on top of that to form the wheel. And by reconstituting those curds into a tightly compact structure like a wheel, you now have something that can age for a long time, creating a rind that will protect the inside texture of the top of the cheese. We are going to take this, break it up into small cubes, warm it up slowly so we're not releasing the butter fats as quickly. By warming it up slowly, we're going to be able to form it into a mass again. We're going to reconstitute from this structure into a mass, and then we're going to do the stretching of the mozzarella, which is more essentially elongating the proteins. And by doing that, it changes the flavor, the texture, and the mouthfeel. And then we're going to form that into balls, or we can make all sorts of wonderful shapes. If anyone wants horses or chickens, I've dromedaries, llamas, I can do them all. And then we're going to eat it, I hope. So here we go.